Before I can start on the painting process of all the chassis and engine components, I first needed to detail a couple additional parts and also just glue a couple of them together. Now for this one specifically, there is a nice distributor, and that needs to be drilled out for the wires later on to be added into it. Now you could of course just glue them on top, but they wouldn't really hold all that well, so I just like to drill a small hole where the wires fit in and then have a stronger hold. Once that was completed, all the other parts were glued together that needed to be, most specifically the engine halves, and then everything could be primed and painted into their specific colors. After finishing all of the parts in their colors, I moved on to letting that cure for a bit and then could start detailing and assembling. The engine air filter has some detail in it from the USCP transkit. It's a nice photo etch piece. I painted that black first and then needed to scribe off the edges in order to reveal the nice lettering and logos that are on there. So I just put it onto a file, sanded it gently until that top layer was removed, and I could then move on. On the valve covers, I wanted to add the same look and feel, so I decided to paint it black and then wipe the excess off. That is revealing the silver layers underneath that are on the highlighted areas, showing the nice logos and also the details on the top side of the valve cover. A couple other small details around the chassis and engine needed to be painted silver, so I took out a brush to take care of that. With the paint now cured, I could move on to assembly. First of all, I'm just going to start with all the engine components and then slowly move on to the chassis further on in the video. At the beginning of the video, I drilled the holes in the distributor, and now of course there need to be corresponding holes on the other end in the engine itself for the wires to go into as well. These wires were used from scale production and glued in with some Super Gold Plus from Bob Smith Industries on the distributor and of course also on the engine side. I glued it in on the distributor side first, then made sure that it was long enough and could then cut it to the final length. One down, 7 more to go. I like to touch on this in every video I do engine wiring. The wires are not specifically routed to the exact point where they need to be, so the firing order is probably incorrect. Well, probably it is incorrect. I don't know which it specifically needs to be. Yes, I can look this up on the internet, but I personally don't really mind, as the engine air filter will go on top of it and just mask it off entirely, and once that is all in there, it won't ever be seen. It's just a nice quick little detail that I like to add to these engines, and that's pretty much it. Now normally the exhausts on a Mustang go out at the back. In this case, with this custom version, the exhaust ends in the side skirt at the rear wheel. So of course the mufflers need to be changed as well. They are cut off and replaced entirely with a new set from USCP. With all of the parts now assembled, it was time to just add a little bit of weathering. I didn't really want to go overboard, just keep it nice and clean as I usually do. So I first started off with some brown Panelline accent color and highlighting a couple of these areas, and then later on, once that was dried, I went over the entire thing to blend it all together with some black Panelline accent color.